All right, I think we're live now. My name is Matt Storms. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on today's Helpdesk Hangout 117. Kind of cool that we've been doing them that long. And it looks like we've got pretty much the same regular crowd in here. Hopefully we'll have a couple more people who will join us. Had a few questions, and I know we've got some interesting things to talk about this week. So let's go ahead and do introductions, and then we'll start talking about stuff. Barry, what time do you have to leave today?
About 2:30.
Gotcha. Okay. So go ahead, Archie. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Archie. I am a computer networks researcher, but I also deal with websites. I used to build them, and now I mostly just fix problems with them.
Outstanding. Barry.
Barry Schwartz. I'm celebrating Hanukkah right
Hey, crazy nights.
now.
Kevin.
Kevin Mullet with Market Snare. I do a lot of SEO, website junk and stuff, and social, and all things web related.
William.
Yes, sir. William Rock, specialist in paid advertising. Loving it. Love all the tweaks, and thanks, Barry, for all the news.
Sweet. Wissam.
Wissam Danda from Daytona Beach, Florida, international SEO consultant.
All right. I know we'll have more people who will join us as we go on. Since Barry has to leave because he's celebrating the holidays, so we'll start off talking a little bit of SEO news in the beginning and SEO stuff, and then we'll jump into some other things. I want to talk about some Freebase maybe in this in the first part or after Barry leaves. We'll talk about some responsive design and then indexing of new sites, and we're going to talk about audits today and maybe some aspects of how to do different types of audits if you guys are up for that. And so yeah. So anyways, so Barry, why don't we talk about some SEO news? I saw Freebase was an interesting thing that came out this week.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I should talk. Freebase. Yeah, so Google bought Freebase or MetaWeb a few years back. Freebase is, obviously, you guys know, is a database of knowledge, of information, which is populated by volunteers for the most part. Freebase announced this week that they are closing up shop, and they're transferring all their data to Wikipedia's Wikidata. They're not going to close anything until all the APIs are up and running. I assume Google's not going to cut the feed, so they're going to make sure their knowledge graph, which gets a portion of their data from Freebase, will be up and running before anything changes. The question will people like, I'm not going to name names, in this chat here, in this Hangout here, be able to manipulate the knowledge graph as well as they were with Freebase after it switches to Wikidata. So that's the question, really. But yeah, I don't think you have to worry too much about things changing too much.
I loved Freebase for the information I was able to upload about myself. If you go do a search for Matt Storms, it says Matt Storms SEO Professional, and then it lists all the data and information over there for me. I've been using Freebase. It's a great thing. It's a great tool for businesses. I worked with a couple businesses to upload their entire product data feeds into there. All the information, everything like that. It did really well for them.
Yeah, I've been talking to the Wikidata guys, and actually one of the guys that's writing the code right now, and they're still fixing to make it better. So the stuff that you're used to in Freebase, he was telling me that, hey, maybe we'll kind of make similar features to what Freebase had. I was just talking to him yesterday, so just so you know.
So you're saying you will be able to go in and edit and add data to that?
Yeah, he said there's no problem. I talked to him yesterday. The coder that's writing it right now.
Good to know.
Yeah. So I mean, but unless the guidelines are still strict, for of course the Wikipedia area, right? You need to have resources, and you need to, but with just going and adding data, yeah, shouldn't be a problem.
All right, Barry, what else you got?
I put a link in the chat to your specific Freebase profile. So if anybody wants to go in there and modify it a little bit, feel free. Next.
It's pretty cool that it knows like how Matt Storm's parents are and all that stuff. So that's.
Well, I entered that information in there.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty cool because it knows that like if knowledge graph. But anyways.
We didn't need to know your underwear size though. That was a little startling to see.
That's not in there.
It's totally in.
This is pretty wild. The whole Nest thing, where you can actually go ahead and control your temperature in your house using Google Now, either by telling Google, "Okay, Google, set my temperature to X or Y or Z," or by knowing you're leaving work and heading home. So that's pretty wild. You can just envision what's going to happen, or imagine what's going to happen in a year or two from now in terms of integrated with Google, like your appliances being integrated with Google Now.
My son would set up it to 200 degrees.
Well, I'm excited to see how, because they bought Waze, and Waze can tell when you're on your way home, and so once Google Maps starts to realize that you're on your way home, then it's going to start giving you, oh hey, there's a faster route over here if you're on your way home, and then once Maps realizes that, then Google Now will be able to figure out that, oh, since you're on your way home, well now we can clearly turn the heat on or the air on to get your place to the temperature where you desire it. And then, oh yeah, by the way, maybe you need to have, different types of things, that you need to turn on in your home to make your day happier. Kind of interesting. I think there's a lot of integration still to be done.
Yeah, and if you integrate that with Wikidata stuff, you can actually see Google Maps Storms exactly which stores he's visiting at what times of the day.
Well, I want my ice maker to make more ice on days that it's going to be hotter. So let's get that happening.
It'll be great.
I think you'll see a fridge probably in the next 2 years. It's integrated with that type of stuff to tell you that, oh, you're running low on your milk. Maybe you need to pick up more.
I think Samsung's already got something going with that.
They do have that, yeah. Now, if you could have a blender that automatically makes you, like a smoothie or an alcoholic drink, as the case may be, on hot days, that would be more awesome.
So you saw that I guess I don't know if it's a car that, I think it's a BMW ad or something, that basically it knows when you want to park your car, so you're like, all right, I pulled up to my meeting in front of the building, it's going to go and park the car for you, like in a lot.
Volvo? No.
Volkswagen? I don't know.
Volkswagen, I think, maybe.
So Google's really working hard towards their Android operating system to be plugged in directly into the car. So we'll see what happens with that. It's going to be pretty amazing that, especially for like people who work in major cities, the worst thing is really like finding parking or dealing with lots or pulling up to the meeting 5 minutes early or even 20 minutes early and then trying to find a spot or a parking lot that's not full, especially in New York City. Just leaving your car there and letting it deal with it would be pretty amazing.
Especially when you're going to a movie and you're half an hour before it, you're not wasting your time. The car does this thing.
Yeah.
Well, a half hour before, I don't really want the world being polluted if it doesn't need to be.
Yeah, movies are pollution of people's time.
Yeah.
Let's not get into that or we get hacked.
Actually, Obama's talking about it now.
Okay. So I know there's some other things. You have any more?
One more thing. One more thing worth mentioning, probably. Well, maybe two. But one thing is this whole Google breadcrumb. When you actually see in the snippet, the breadcrumb trail, that used to hyperlink to different places. And as of like a few weeks ago, I think 2.5 weeks ago, Google dropped it. You can't click on a link anymore. There are no more hyperlinks. The reason for that, supposedly, is there was some type of exploit or hijack opportunity for hackers to embed or inject their own links into those hyperlinks. So Google, I guess, in the short term, or maybe in the long term, just removed it. I doubt anybody actually clicked on those links anyway. Google would have the data on that. But I found it interesting that people were able to still find exploits in Google's UI directly on the interface. Have any of you seen a traffic difference because of it?
I have not.
I thought that would be interesting to talk about. I guess I'm wrong. Um, outside of that, I mean, it's been pretty slow on the organic Google side. I haven't seen any Penguin-related shifts since December 6th. I haven't seen any Panda-related discussion since late or mid-October. So it seems like Google has decided to like calm things down right before the holidays, which is obviously good, I guess, for a lot of people.
But small little things are happening. Like
always, yeah, always small tiny things. But on the massive scale, I haven't seen much.
No.
Except some people are saying they're seeing stuff, I guess.
You seen what he told me, right? When I asked him, when I asked him about the last panda penguin question.
He doesn't know.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, I haven't really seen much in terms of shifts, at least in the mass scale, where people are complaining about stuff in a while. But that's pretty much. I mean, there's obviously other news, but that's pretty much the.
Hey Barry, can I ask you a question about the URL masking with Google? That post that you put out. There's been other comments out there on the forums talking about that there was possible injections and that's why they did it, or security risk. Is that what kind of brought that to the of masking that in the actual search results?
So I just added a link at the main area you can. It goes through in detail how people were able to, I guess, hack those breadcrumb trails with the code and what code they use in JavaScript. It's actually pretty detailed. So you can take a look at that and look at the actual code behind the bug.
I found that, you know me, I find that fascinating because I always try to hunt that stuff down. But I appreciate you bringing that to everybody's public eye because I think it's important. It's pushing Google into a helpful environment for safety of the visitor experience from any device that they're on. I know there's a lot of pushback for that, but at the same time, is you see all these hacks going on. This is just one simple one, and I think they're addressing it quite well. That's just my take.
Yep. Okay. On that note, I guess I can stop with the news unless you want me to talk more. It's up to you.
No, please do. You got a lot more news, don't you?
Well, let's go. Yeah, let's go a couple more minutes. What else do you have?
Well, this is mostly a Webmaster community, so I guess you guys saw that the head of the Google, not the head, but one of the faces behind the Google Web Span team in Poland, Carolina, I guess how you pronounce her name, is no longer there. She's stepping down. Somebody else is taking her place. She's actually broke a lot of news in terms of specific link networks being hit, and a lot of link networks get hit in Poland. I guess there's a lot of spam there. So she deserves, obviously, a lot of, it's not easy working for Google, and it's not easy working for Google as a web spam analyst. So
does that mean the new guy will be more transparent or less transparent?
It's interesting because they focus only on the Polish side, so it's not so important for us because it's like a small niche. Really nobody cares about Canada or, let me show you. People mostly care about the U.S. results. So.
Thanks.
So it's not that important, but she was incredibly transparent, which makes me wonder, was her transparency the reason she's no longer there? And I didn't ask her. I didn't want to put her in a weird situation. But she's still at Google. She's not leaving Google. She's working at a startup within Google that has nothing at all to do with spam or search or anything. So I don't know, just interesting.
Yeah, Google's got a lot of other businesses I've been finding lately, especially their Google Ventures. I'm talking with a few of those guys, and it is quite unique. I'm trying to understand all that they do.
Do we have any lawyers in here? Anybody with a legal background?
I don't believe so.
No, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
So I don't understand this. So as you know, Google's News in Spain was supposed to shut down. So if you go to the Google News Spain homepage, it gives their message why Spain and the government there is horrible. But when you go to Google Spain, just to Google Spain homepage, and you do a search for anything, and then there is a news tab in the top right above the search box, which brings up Google News within Spain. It's just that Google disabled the Google News homepage in Spain, but not the the tab to actually show news, which is boggles my mind. Greg Sterling at Search and Land, who actually was a practicing lawyer for a long, long time, they got out of it, which a lot of lawyers do for some reason, says, according to the law, at least how he read it, you can't even have that tab there. So he's not sure. You can't show news. You can't have snippets at all, either in Google News or on Google.com. So it's very interesting. I don't understand it.
I'm sure there's some bugs they're working out.
No, they said they're leaving it like that, at least for now. It's on purpose.
I don't know.
It reminds me of when they shut down in China and how they implemented that. They just redirected people to Google Korea, I believe. I mean, one of those places.
No, Hong Kong.
Hong Kong.
Anyway, you guys could discuss.
For some reason, China and Korea, they kind of don't get along, but Hong Kong they do.
I'm getting a lot of spam from China.
Well, that's where a lot of it really comes from, I think. You want to buy a million links, you go to China. And get crappy ones that ruin your website. Yeah, so I mean, there's some definite issues with that. Okay, so let's talk about some other issues. So Danny actually sent me an email the other day in reference to a Hangout that some webmasters from Google did out of India. And look, I see Danny like perking up now, like sitting up. So I went digging around, and his question, and Danny, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically your question was regarding responsive, and you know, the webmaster team said, oh, you shouldn't hide anything in responsive, but you kind of actually have to. You can't render everything. It's just not possible. And so I went digging around, and talked to somebody's getting really loud there, and talked to some other people about this issue, and basically confirm my own hypothesis or the answer on this. And it really depends on the stuff that you have to hide. It's not important to the page content if you're using media queries, or if you're using media queries properly. It's okay, like some images, like slider scripts, or they're not helpful on mobile. Or images just used for decoration. Buttons that are present in several places on a desktop version, but just one place on a mobile. Email forms present on a page with other content meaning to be moved on another page on their own. So you have to kind of hide them on the desktop version and then activate a link for the mobile. You know, it's not really a matter of what's hidden. It's not that it is hidden. So you kind of have to decide on that. And if anybody else wants to jump in, I'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts are as far as rendering image or rendering content for a desktop, a tablet, and then for a phone. And love to get your guys' opinion on this. And Archie, I'd love to get you to go first. Archie, what's your opinion on rendering, you know, desktop to tablet to mobile, and how you would render things?
Well, I agree with what you said. I mean, it's not so much what you're hiding, but well, it is what you're hiding, not so much the fact you're hiding it. You have to, you know, just have to figure out what's going to be best for the users, basically, and you know, start with your biggest audience, whatever they're using, and then narrow it down from there. But yeah, I agree with what you said. It's about what you're hiding, not necessarily that you are hiding it.
And I got Archie to talk. Yes, I win.
Okay, great. I don't have to do it again.
Yeah, you will. Okay, so Barry, I know you do design work and things like that every now and again with your company, apps and things like that. But as far as responsive design, what's your thought on you know, what's your thought on that?
On hiding stuff within responsive design?
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, you have to. It's mostly more about dropping off the sidebars or certain types of elements, not the core content. So obviously you're not going to want to drop any of the core content specifically. But the side navigations and different things, so different navigation has to change slightly or be removed slightly. So you have to do it. It's not. I think Google has said time and time again. Responsive, it's fine. It's okay when you go to mobile to make certain adjustments. It's not considered hiding. It's not considered, being done for a negative reason, I guess.
You said once that the kind of sites you build, you'll never need SEO. When you were saying that to Josh Bashinsky, that's true?
I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
You said that if sites are built the way they're supposed to build, there's no need for SEO. It was a hangout you did with Josh.
Well,
Friday.
I mean, I said this hundreds of times. I think any site that's built in a way that Google would feel it's embarrassing not to have come up for its relevant keywords is a site done right, and Google will have to adjust their algorithms to make it rank. You shouldn't have to worry about SEO.
I concur.
Yeah, sort of, kind of, but
I concur.
So, I mean, you got to.
you still have to protect against. Now, this is specific for people who hand a client their own CMS that they can control. You still have to rein in the stupid things that they do with their with a CMS left to their own accord, like 1 megabyte images that are huge, not doing title tags, not doing etc. That's not just an SEO thing, though. That's just good usability, user experience, etc. like that.
Right. I mean, it's like saying I have a Jag and I'll never need to take a look at the hood again or whatever and just drive.
But he makes a good point, though, guys. I mean, when you start looking at the actual responsive design, you give the keys to the castle to the CEO that paid you to do that. And once you've turned over the keys, they do have control of what they can do. And what happens if they actually start messing up the actual cascading style sheets, fonts start turning into gigantic monster things, it doesn't fit in mobile, lots of different complications that come along with that, but how do you handle it?
Okay.
Well, I think to say that you just build it, deploy it, and then you never worry about it again is, I think that's one extreme. Yes, if you build it correctly from the start, you will have a lot less to deal with, but you can't. I mean, you could just even say as simple as, what if they just don't ever add content to it? If they're never adding content to their site, just building an awesome structure isn't going to, by itself, going to give them the visibility or conversion that they need. So
that's why I disagree respectfully.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's let. I know Danny. You have a mic there? No, I can't hear you, buddy. Bad mic. Okay, so Danny, I know you posted the link over there inside the chat for those of us who are in the Hangout. And I know we're not going to watch that right now. If anybody else wants to, maybe William can go and grab the link and post that. I put it on Google Plus page.
if that's the link that I think it is, Matt, it was. I mean, John Mueller specifically said that content that is hidden inside of, for example, a div layer that is hidden on mobile is going to get devalued. And once again, I am forced to vehemently disagree, if that is in fact the correct thing, to vehemently disagree with Google on taking that stance. I suppose you could put in HTTP vary and so forth, but sometimes having this much copy on the page, which may work really well for desktop, is not going to be right for mobile.
He said that specifically with mobile?
Yes. It was in, it was like, I don't remember how far in. It might be this 39-minute mark that Danny is referring to, but it was specifically stated in one of the, I don't think it was the Indian web spam office hours, though, but
And then that's the thing. I mean, you can't render an entire desktop page in a tablet and then on a phone. You just can't do it. It's just not possible.
Well, this is kind of like back when Matt Cutts used to say, like one of the things we used to do is you would, you'd tweak your navigation so that you could have text underneath of it. So, you could render it properly in different circumstances, but you had an image over it. And he's like, well, we think that you should use better methods. Like what? You know, we're not trying to trick you. We're trying to create quality. So let's be a little bit more logical and clear about our recommendation.
That's confusing because I know John has also said that on the indexing side, for the most part, even ranking factors for the most part are pretty much the same across desktop and web, meaning like your page speed, which you think would be a separate value for desktop, the speed of your desktop version versus the speed of your mobile version, would be, you have different, weights, meaning if your mobile site loads in 1 second and your desktop site loads in 2 seconds, Google would say, all right, those are two different numbers. For desktop search, I'm going to use the 1 second, and for mobile search, I'm going to use the 2 second. He said that page speed specifically, and almost everything specifically, is the same, meaning this one factor across mobile and desktop. So for him to say, I guess they do value it anyway. So
yeah, I mean, basically, and even if you're telling them that you varied it, and they disagree with you varying it, then you get. I mean, I don't know. The simple thing is we have to go by conversion and usability, and I can't have, I can't have on some of these pages the full body copy. It just doesn't make any sense.
Content is on the desktop and showing on the desktop, and it's not showing on the mobile. He's saying because it's not showing on the mobile, it will be discounted on the mobile.
That's how I interpreted it based on that. But if you go back and you listen to Matt's bit from about 6 months ago, 4 months ago, he basically is saying no, they don't do it. They understand that it should be different.
Yeah, I gotta hear it myself. I think.
Well, I'll try and find the link.
Yeah.
I'll try and find the link on it.
And so, Danny, you follow up here in the chat. Says, my question is more whether it's deemed cloak need to hide under show, hide, div. I don't think it is.
Well, that's where you would use the vary. If it's different than your desktop, you would use a vary to denote that.
Yep. It's just not possible to render everything you want on a phone or on a tablet that you would render on the desktop. It's just not possible. So you have to choose the elements that you want and set the vary on that.
So I wanted to hear your prediction, Matt, for 2015 and Barry's prediction for 2015.
Well, Barry's got to go in 2 minutes, and so we're probably going to do the predictions. I was thinking the predictions for 2015 on January 2nd.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
No problem. So make sure you're there. Okay, so Danny, are you developing your own website, or do you have developers? See you, Barry.
Happy holidays, everybody. I'll speak to you guys in a couple weeks.
Happy Hanukkah, man.
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah, buddy. Take care.
Okay, so Danny, so you're doing both. I would. Okay, you do the small stuff. They're doing the big stuff. So I look at doing responsive layout as really big. So I would probably think about working over with them. There's a bunch of tutorials online. I will be the first one to admit when it comes down to doing responsive design and things like that, I work with developers. I don't do it myself. And I find the best guys to do it. I will be launching a website in the next few weeks, and it is fully responsive. If you want to go look at it, it's called jetathletics.com. It's not indexed yet, and basically that site is fully responsive. There's some elements in there, and what I would do is go look at other responsive websites. The internet is rife with plagiarism, so just go look at other websites and figure out what they've done to make your, as far as what they're doing, because you can look at their code and just say, okay, well, if they're doing this to make it responsive, then I can do the exact same thing. Maybe it's, your CMS, maybe it's your, different things like that. So you're going to have to look at those aspects. There's a lot of different moving parts, and you know, maybe Kevin can back me up on that. I mean, there's a lot of different stuff to go with responsive sites.
Yeah, and I think the first question you have to ask yourself if you're going to go to that level is why are you doing responsive? If you're doing responsive because it will give your user the best experience, it will convert the highest, and because it's what you think fits for your business, then absolutely do that. If you're doing it simply because you think that it's going to help you with search engine optimization, then I would argue that you are working with the wrong people, because if they don't know how to do search engine optimization right outside of it only being done through responsive, then I'm concerned whether they're going to do responsive right, because let's be absolutely clear, you can still completely tank your website by doing responsive wrong. Responsive is not SEO. Responsive is one decision-making process that eliminates some of the things that are gotchas for people that don't understand canonicalization, duplicate content, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my spiel on it.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I talked with a gym owner the other day who wanted to have a responsive website, and I said, well, let's look at your traffic first, since you have Google Analytics on here. 95% of his traffic came from desktop. It did not come from a phone. It did not come from a tablet. And I said to him, why do you want to go spend, a couple grand on making your website responsive if your traffic isn't even coming from those sources? I said, if it comes from those sources, then I'm going to back you up, man. I'm going to completely agree with you. But 95% of your traffic comes from people sitting in front of their computer thinking, man, I better stop eating this fat food and better start going to the gym. And if they're thinking that, I was like, they're not going to be doing that on their phone, because when they're on their phone, they're out buying fast food and junk food. And he's like, yeah, you're right. And I said, so you have a concept that you're going to have to deal with here of dealing with those people. So, maybe you might want to look at your analytics to see if it actually makes sense to even do a responsive website. I'm not going to recommend it for everybody.
I take everybody to Walmart's example. That's 100% responsive. And I asked them, do you really want something like this? That's kind of like a gallery I would just show, but everybody wants something different. If you're a locksmith, then you need a mobile responsive design. Why? Because most of the people that are locked out are outside.
Yep.
You got to match it, and I mean, this goes back, and I'll be brief. I'll bring up some bad blood. This goes back to the same people who were crying all about CSS versus table way back in the day, when the argument was that using CSS made it easier to update later. I immediately cried foul, because the reality is that most of the time, if you come back to me for a redesign and I'm the one that did it, very little of that code base is going to be retained, because I don't want to crawl through my own code. And if it's somebody else's website, you're absolutely getting 100% new, because there's no way I'm going to try and go through and figure out somebody else's stuff and start from there. You're going to get a whole new code base. So if the argument for tabling versus CSS was, well, because it'll be easier to just change your style later on, no. There's other reasons to do it, a lot of other reasons to do it, but we have to make sure that we're picking factually based good reasons, not just the latest craze.
So Danny, I know you're nervous to go to a responsive website, but the thing is, you have to ask yourself, not about being nervous, but is it actually needed? And then if it's needed, then it's like, okay, well, what are the steps you're going to take? Programmatically lay those out, whiteboard them. So you said 10 to 20% is mobile traffic. I would say that's a healthy reason then to go responsive website. Here's the thing though. Someday you just have to, and William writes in there, look at your bounce rate, look at things like that. Maybe it's something different on mobile. Maybe you don't need a responsive website, but maybe you do. And then guess what? You can always A/B test. You can always A/B multivariate test. Render something for people who are mobile and send them through that page. Test it. So, I mean, Kevin, do you have any other opinions on that?
No, I think we're all basically saying the same thing: is look at your analytics, decide if there's enough traffic to value doing it. Look at your business model. As Wassam was saying, or I think maybe it was Baruch that was saying, say, is this a restaurant? What type of data are they going to look for? We do a event site. One of our clients is an event site. There's no way I'm trying to do that via responsive. They need two different representations completely, because we look in the analytics, we know what they're going after when they come in via mobile versus what they're looking for when they come in via desktop. And to try and neuter the things on mobile, no, you create two separate ones. You make sure that you have the correct, you have to know SEO to make that work right, so Google doesn't get all flustered about it. But most of the time, if you've got 20 to 30%, you need to look at doing responsive, and you need to do it right.
And build yourself a test website. Build yourself like any test website. Test it on another website. Test these experiments. It's what I do day in, day out. I test them out, and when it's the final countdown to do that surgery, to this one crazy page, hey, I went through it, so I know what will happen.
Yeah, I don't think you're a true SEO unless you got at least 3 or 4 test websites that you're butchering, and on a monthly basis to find out if things are working for you or not. So if you don't have those test websites, I mean, Kevin, how many test websites do you have?
I don't know. 30 plus domains. I don't know. So
yeah, if you're not testing your stuff, you're just gonna have to do it. Okay, so let's move on. I think we kind of beat that over with the dead horse there. So let's talk about indexing of a new site. So let's talk about, because I know that I've had this question raised to me, like, what's the easiest way to get my site indexed?
Take the actual. So it depends what hosting company you're with. So open up a Google account. Do you want me to go through all the generic stuff?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, so open up a Google account, and once you're there, you go to Webmaster Tools. Once you're in Webmaster Tools, you would basically add a site. So you would go and type in your website's name, example1.com, whatever the site's name is, and then add the site. It'll take you to the next step where it would ask you where to download the file. So you decide. Are you frozen, Matt?
No, I'm hearing you.
It would ask you which way do you want to basically verify the actual site via a Google file or a meta tag and other options, or what hosting company you're with, or you can do it from your actual hosting company if you're with, I don't want to say their names, but
they offer like 30 to 40 different.
Yeah, which is a really, they're trying to go as easy as they can to verify the site, and that's it. And then you hit submit. Now, if you don't want to wait, you can also do a fetch Google bot if you want to speed up.
I think you missed one. So if you're going to do the non-dub version, then you got to do the dub version, and then you have to.
Yeah, so you can do that, and also if it's HTTPS, you would verify that as well. So you verify the HTTPS, the non-dub, and the dub, just like John said. I mean, you can watch his videos.
Yep. So if you're going to do the HTTPS dub version, you got to do the HTTPS non-dub version. Then you got to do the regular dub version, and then regular and non-dub version.
And not to forget your mobile site.
And then you got to do the mobile one, and you got to set them all in there. So there's a lot of stuff to do on that first one. So a lot of people always skip those. Those things right in the beginning. So keep going.
Most importantly, where are you located? If you're located in Canada and you got a .ca, you don't need to worry about it. If you're in the U.S., if you're in Canada and you still have a .com, geo-target it to a Canada area, or if you're in the U.S., then you geo-target it to your to the U.S. And if you don't want Canadian visitors or whatever. If you're, of course, an e-commerce site, just leave it blank.
Yep, that is a definite thing to do there. And then sitemaps and building those out. And then after you've done your sitemaps, then you're going to submit those to Google as well. and watch those. Now, here's the funny thing. I always get this question. I submitted my sitemap to Google. Why am I not indexed? I go, when did you submit your sitemap and when did you allow your site to be indexed? 3 hours ago. Okay, well, Google is really fast, but they're not that fast. Believe it or not, they're kind of slow. So how about we give it a couple weeks? That's what I always say. I've seen sites get indexed a couple pages, but if you have a large site, like 50,000 pages, it could take you a couple weeks to a month or longer to get all of your stuff indexed. It's not going to happen overnight. It just never will. Maybe some of you other guys can talk about how fast you've gotten your sites to be indexed.
Yeah, I mean, even if you have 100 and let's just be realistic here. So let's say 250 pages, you know, maybe like 80 will get indexed, and you have to wait for the rest to still be indexed. You have to give it time, like you said.
I don't know. I generally check that quite a bit, and I would say within the first couple of days, we're getting pretty good indexation rate across maybe sites with hundreds.
No, the situation was here that it was the 3 hours, right? Where this person thinks, hey, I mean, it all depends. I mean, you can fetch every single page if you want, right? You can fetch, your sub pages, right? They'll get indexed.
Well, yeah, I mean, actually, we did a test. We did a couple of tests where we didn't add a site. We made it live, didn't add it to Google Analytics. We didn't add it to Google Webmaster Tools. Waited and waited to see how long it would take before it got indexed. And I don't know, we got impatient and finally added it because it took more than 24 hours, and I wasn't going to wait longer than that anyway. And then we had a site, same type of site, same scenario, same release. It wasn't tweeted out. It wasn't put on Google+, where the only thing we would do is we would add it to Google Webmaster Tools. We wouldn't even submit the sitemap, and I mean, it gets picked up right away. Initially, it doesn't. You don't have as deep a crawl. The deep crawl definitely is assisted by having that sitemap added.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't need a sitemap if you have a WordPress website where you would just ping the generator and then it would, do it for you from there. Have you seen those?
I'm sorry, say that again.
WordPress in a WordPress website, so there's certain plugins that would, will do the sitemake for you.
Oh, sure, yeah, and you've got some that will do the pub sub hubbub for you,
Correct.
Or those kind of do the. All of a sudden, the term left me, but we'll ping the servers for you and so forth. So yeah, we can do that. So Matt jumped out there for a second, but
yeah. So in general, that's how basically you would submit the index. I mean, and that's it. I mean, you have to let Google simmer, let it do its thing, and
I would, yeah. It's not going to happen in like we're saying here. It's not going to happen like instantaneously. Now, one thing I would absolutely recommend is if you do have Google Plus pages and it's not spammy, or you're not just doing it solely for that purpose, but you have something to actually legitimately share out about that site. Hey, we launched, or whatever. I would absolutely post it on Google Plus, because that tends to get discovered very quickly there.
For sure, yeah.
So, what else do we have?
So we have one other topic here, site audits. So let's talk about some of our favorite types of audits that we like to do in here. So I know some of us have different types that we like to do. Some of us have different methods and layouts and all that stuff, but we're not going to talk about design. We're just going to talk about ideas of different types of audits. Okay. So one I just finished. I just worked on audits. I've done it a couple times now. An acquisition audit. So a company wants to buy another company. They want to know if their SEO for their company is decent and what they could do to improve it if they decide to buy it. Because it's going to be it's going to be a large purchase, right? If they're spending more than $25, I say that's a decent purchase, right? So most websites with large pages, they cost a lot of money. So that's an audit I just worked on. So I had to look at competitors, I had to look at keywords, I had to look at different things in the space, different ideas and things like that, which was really a lot of fun. So that's just one type of audit. Went through there looking at tons of different facets. I thought it was really quite interesting. What are some of the other audits you guys like to do? So we'll start with Baruch. What type of audit do you like to do?
Well, I like to dig deep into the site, go all the way from the server logs. I don't know how many here use Xenu. Anybody? How many people? Okay.
Love Xenu.
So Screaming Frog, a great way, but not as much as detail. Like, it doesn't give me, doesn't make me 100% confident. So I use that, and then I use other tools. And we're building one as well. Phew, finally got the funding for that, so something in-house, kind of my own tool.
Remember your buddy here, the
Yes.
tool guy that always wants to know what the, yeah.
So we got this thing here in the government, Canada, you can apply, and so we get the funding, and so we're starting to build, and that's it. It's the only way. And yeah, so I like to do that, and then basically really you want to know just in terms of the audits, what tools I use, or what do I do?
No, like what? So like, what type of audits do you like to do? Why do you like to do them?
So we basically, of course, we'll start off, with Google Page Insights. Just in the beginning, to take a look first, what's happening, how does Google view it from their eyes, and then from there, just take a look at the site speed, take a look at the overall structure of the website. Take a look at what's happening with the images, and so it all depends how but in general, overall, of what's happening with the site, what what it needs to really get. Like it depends. Every site has its own problem.
Okay.
But most of the time, we're really deep, towards with every single small detail. Like we're very I'm very perfectionist in the way my sites come out.
Okay.
And the results are there,
So let's start, Kevin. So what type of audits do you like to do, Kevin?
I'm really partial to doing new website audits. So let's say that you didn't win the contract to do the web development for something. They chose to go with somebody else. Well, then sometimes even right after we find out if we lost something. So like, for example, we're priced too high because we want to take the time to do it right. So they go with Cousin Billy Joe Bob or whatever. We'll throw it out to them. Was like, hey, once you get that site up there, come back to us. We'll do an audit of how they performed and give you a list of the things that we see that are going to cause you trouble down the road. Or if it's great, then super. We'll give you the all clear. And that seems to go over really well because then you can show them right off the bat. Sometimes that it's not even recoverable from our standpoint. But other times you're doing them a huge service because you can send them down the right path to say, okay, the bones are there. We would have done it slightly different, but here's the things that you must address.
Okay. And then let's see. We've got and just FYI, I want to say thanks to Kevin. Yesterday he looked over one of my sites and gave me some great feedback that I'm going to try to implement most of it as much as I can, but fortunately I'm on a time crunch. I got to get the sucker launched. But
it was a great first stab, man. I mean, it's plenty there for launching.
So I heard a comment a long time ago when it comes to new sites, and kind of iterated to Kevin yesterday is you just got to start with something. If you're not happy with if you're extremely happy with your first version, you waited too long to launch, and then you can always iterate from there. So it's all about iteration after you launch a website.
Yeah, most of these new site audits, like I'm talking about, though, Matt, are really most of the time they're done by agencies that really should not be selling web services. I mean, let's be brutally honest about it. I'm not trying to be mean. It's web development malpractice. It is building a site in such a way that it cannot be properly crawled, that it doesn't have the canonical URLs. It doesn't have. I mean, it's just wrong, and so or it is literally not optimized. And so, that wasn't the case. The stuff you and I were talking about with your site is nitpicky down the road things. The things that I'm talking about is when you really see somebody it's going to do them a disservice to have that site languish out there, or is going to cause them to go backwards.
Concur. All right. And Danny, I mean, that's maybe something that you could think about. It's what I was referring to, the iteration type thing. You could always go ahead and do a responsive type website and then iterate. And iterate and iterate and iterate. And that's where multivariate testing is going to come into play. There's nothing wrong with doing a responsive website. The issues where you're going to go wrong is in iteration and making sure that your A/B testing is on point. So A/B testing is good stuff. You can learn a lot from it, especially if you have enough traffic. If you have less than, I would say, 1,000 visitors a month, A/B testing might not be good to do. You need a large enough traffic sample. And so you might have to either pay for traffic, so ads, to get users to your site to see the value of it, so that way you can get large enough segment testing and things like that to get things fixed correctly. If you're just relying on straight organic traffic to drive volume, and you're under 1,000 to 2,000 visitors, paid unique visitors per month, it's going to be difficult to do that type of testing.
But also, like if Danny's doing Twitter, for instance, it's another great way to bring traffic. I know someone that just lives off just of Twitter traffic, and they are doing very well.
Yeah, but you guys got to look at it different. I mean, you guys pointed out some fantastic stuff, but me, I take it at a different level, though. I mean, I look at, if I'm going to take on a client, I want to look at simple stuff. Did they get hit by Panda? Did they get hit by Penguin? Little things like that first, and then moving into how can I help them later.
No, for sure, yeah.
What type of audits? So you just like to do Panda and Penguin audits. What other type of audits do you like to do?
I love to do AdWords audits. Those are my favorite because there's a lot of people that are spending and they're wasting their money. I mean, look at the holiday season. You can go into just about anybody's account, and I've done it. I've done many PPC audits, but what I find to be the problem is they just set it up, put some keywords, ads, basic stuff. They're not taking advantage of all the other aspects of AdWords as well as analytics to go along with. If I spent $1, I make $3. Is the typical goal, but they just want to spend, and they go, oh, I have to have this one high-ranked keyword, yet they're going to spend $15, $20 a keyword, yet they can actually find the long-tail keywords that do the same thing, but for $1.
I've seen companies spend like $5,000 per day with no conversion e-tags, nothing. How are you? What's going on? It's
it doesn't
very,
make any
very
sense.
sad.
Makes no sense.
Well, and how often, William, do you run into it where a big part of the problem is they just don't have quality pages that they're landing things to, and so Google's not an idiot. They're not gonna keep serving something that's not providing that service or is not a good page.
They'll suspend you for not even having an address.
Yeah, well, they're going to charge you for it, though, Kevin. Though, I mean, they're going to let you still spend. But if your quality score is 1, and I have a quality score of 7, I'm going to actually get the lower bid. I'm going to have the higher position, and then I'm going to also have a less cost per click. Therefore, I can actually spend more if I'm making more because my visitor experience is there.
Yeah, and going back to something you alluded to, or that we were, just mentioning here is, make sure that you can convert the business. We had one client that we grilled them. This is going to sound horrible when I even tell you this. He was spending 15 grand a month, and they said, well, we're not getting any business out of this. And we can say, well, we can see the leads coming in. What are you guys doing with this? And come to find out that they could not convert the sale because they were overpriced, and they were not accustomed to internet traffic, which is more of a price-sensitive traffic. They were used to their normal traffic, which would come in off of newspaper advertisements and etc. They just flat couldn't convert the business.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, way back in the day, I mean, Kevin, you started out in paid advertising with all of us, back in the day when we didn't have the analytics, though, right?
Well, yeah, and keep in mind, I am not that great at paid. So, I mean, I have to know a little bit about it, but I'm not a paid guy.
I started when there was only 300 people in the actual system back in 2001, and so I had no analytics. So, coming from a progression from where we had been to where we are now, I can actually track all that data and more effectively with the products, the free products that are provided to me in the interfaces that Google gives me. Whereas I was flying blind before and couldn't convert. And now I see it being a lot easier, but still there's that simplistically piece that goes into people's heads. Hey, I can build this. I don't need you, Kevin, or myself, or anybody else on the panel. I can do this myself, but when it comes down to it, they don't understand what that conversion is. Could be CPC, could be, I'm spending, I'm selling a T-shirt for $19.99. It costs me this at wholesale, and it costs me this.
Hold on. So here's something I want to bring up real fast before we keep diving down this. We've got a couple of minutes left, anyways. So, have any of you ever met an SEO that is really good at SEO and PPC? Or has anybody ever met a PPC who's really good at SEO as well?
Depends on what you've had experience with. If you were basically in corporate, you had to learn it and know it. If you're just doing it as a project or as a consultant, and yeah, you can be focused on one thing or another, but you have to be an expert in the corporate world.
Baruch says he's the expert. Baruch, are you good in both?
Yeah, because I had to train myself. I had no choice. Yeah.
Yeah, same thing.
Well, see, what I know about it because I was the guy that had to do it. And then you find some people who are good at it because they're not really selling the services, but they had to learn it because they chose to. They didn't have a business model that would support them paying somebody like us to do it, and so they learned it on their own, and they learned it through some hard knocks. But yeah, I don't claim to know it very well because I don't need that. I'm not interested in that business.
But deep down inside, I love organic. I mean, I'm always gonna love organic deep down inside. But AdWords can get fun. It's fun.
Yeah, I send all my AdWords recommendations over to a buddy of mine. And I know that's all he does. He's decent with SEO, but he really loves paid. And so I'm like, you go ahead and you spend that money, and I'll send you traffic, and I'll send you referrals, and you cut me a check every month.
But Matt, you have to ask your question of okay, this person knows. I'm not discounting your friend here, but what happens if that person didn't have the actual business knowledge of the transactions, the process of the sales team, all the way down to accounting and delivery of the product? All those aspects do come into play. If you don't talk to the sales guys and all of a sudden you send a lead to a page and those people that are actually on the sales team go, what did you just do? The cycle's confused.
No, like for instance, what about the ad copies? You let him worry about the ad copies because he's got to interact with the salespeople. He's not a salesman. Do you let him interact with the salespeople for the ad copies?
So he's a PPC guy, and when I hand it over, I say, you deal with it. And I tell you what, the guy, he's really, really smart. His name's Jake Hoops, if anybody ever wants to look him up. He's out of Utah, and really, really smart guy. He's who I recommend for people to go to when I send people over for PPC. Yeah. So, smart guy. I've never had a problem with him, and everybody always has rave reviews for the work he does. But anyways,
And that goes back to the trust.
that being said,
Matt, that's trust.
yep, it is. It's pure trust. I trust Jake.
Yeah.
So, that being said, we're out of time. So, here's the question. Next week, December 26th, the day after Christmas, how many of you want to do a hangout?
I think.
I'll be in.
So I'm
Yeah.
going to say no.
Yeah.
Okay?
Here.
So next week, we're not going to do one on the 26th. We're going to do a hangout on January 2nd. January 2nd will be a Let's Talk About 2015.
Wow.
Awesome.
Oh my God.
That'll be fun.
Okay?
Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah.
I will get my crystal ball warmed up.
So do me a favor, since I know you guys have had a good year and things like that, hopefully you guys have, let's send some good karma your way into 2015. Do me a favor, go buy a toy, go buy something for a kid and donate it, okay? Please. I put on a 5K a couple weeks ago. I got over 300 pairs of pajamas and over 100 books that I donated.
So you did well there.
I did well. I had a good time in that one. I had about 350 runners show up, or about 350 people paid, and about 250 actually showed up.
Me and my wife just donated 4K to a hospital right next to us.
Nice. So you know, Archie, I want to see you with a toy, man. Go buy a toy and go donate it to a kid for me. I know you guys celebrate Christmas over there in the UK. So. Right, will you do that for me, Archie?
Yeah, absolutely.
Outstanding. I got Archie to speak twice in a hangout. I rule. So, anyways, I hope you guys have a happy holiday, happy Christmas, happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you want to call it. I hope you have a good time and a merry, merry one at that. Don't party too hard. Please don't get arrested. And don't fight with your family. It's just not worth it.
And if you haven't done a site audit in a while, please do.
Yeah, if you haven't done a site audit, please do. And I will be launching my new website hopefully on December 29th. That is my day that I'm going to allow Google to index it. If you guys want to go look at it, it's called jetathletics.com, J-E-T Athletics. It's an event listing website of every single running and bicycle event in the country, and then I will expand to the world, and you can leave reviews on it like you can for Yelp. So it's kind of a unique website. So anyways, I will talk to you guys later. Have a great holiday season, and I hope you go and give a toy to a kid.